Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're cracking open a fresh technical analysis report. This one's from April 25th, 2025.
Right.
And we're going to get a sharp, clear look at what's really shaping the crypto markets right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're looking to cut through all the noise and really understand the recent crypto moves without drowning in charts, well, you're in the right place.
Exactly. We've got the snapshot dated April 25th, and our aim is simple. Pull out the key insights, what's important, what's interesting, We'll look at the big names, the broader context, try and give you a solid, easy-to-grasp picture.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The report seems to suggest the crypto bull run might be catching its breath a little.
That seems fair. We are seeing a bit of a mild dip today.
Yeah, total market cap sitting at $2.88 trillion, which is down slightly.
Yeah.
0.67% in the last 24 hours.
Right.
Our main focus today, it's going to be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana,
Yeah.
and XRP is popping up too, right?
It is, yeah. And it's worth noting, even with this pause, there's some interesting differences happening. Some assets are consolidating, sure, but others are really pushing upward.
Okay, good point. Let's dive straight into Bitcoin then. It's had quite a surge recently.
Oh, yeah.
Up over 9% last week, and it even briefly touched $94,900 back on the 23rd.
Mm.
Now it's trading around, what, $93,174 after a small pullback, less than 1%.
Correct.
So what's the feeling behind this move? What's the report saying about sentiment?
Well, what's really fascinating is the shift in that crypto fear and greed index.
Ah, yeah.
It shot up to 72 on April 23rd, real greed territory, as Bitcoin neared that peak.
Right.
But then, even with the price staying pretty stable since then, the index has actually cooled off quite a bit, down to 60 by the 25th.
Okay, so the price holds, but the greed dips. What might that mean?
It suggests, well, maybe a potential disconnect between the price action itself and the underlying sentiment. Maybe the market's getting a bit more cautious, more selective.
Or maybe some profit-taking happened quietly, even without a big crash.
Could be, even if a major correction isn't, immediately obvious. Bit of caution creeping in, perhaps.
Interesting. A reality check. Now, the report also mentioned some good news for the long-term Bitcoin holders.
It does, yeah. This recent price bump added something like $26 billion to the value held by long-term holders.
Wow.
Which is quite a contrast to what happened earlier in April. Remember, the report mentioned short-term holders getting, quote, shaken out.
Right, during that volatility spike. So patience paying off, it seems.
Looks like it.
And the report brings up this Bitcoin supply in profit metric, calls it a bullish signal. Can you unpack that for me?
Yeah. So this metric, it essentially tracks how much Bitcoin is sitting in wallets where the current price is higher than the price that Bitcoin was acquired at.
Okay.
And the report highlights that 16.7 million Bitcoin are now in profit. They call this level a key threshold of optimism.
Right, a threshold.
And historically, when we see the supply and profits stay consistently above this kind of level, like back in 2016, 2020, even earlier this year, it tends to really boost confidence.
And that can lead to
sustained upward movement,
Yeah.
potentially pushing towards new all-time highs. It's like if most homeowners bought their houses for less than current market value, it suggests confidence in the market's future.
Got it. So it's a measure of overall health, belief, and more upside. Okay, let's get technical. What does the report's analysis say about Bitcoin's price action key levels?
All right, technically, Bitcoin hit that all-time high, $109,588. Then we saw that 32% correction down to a low of $74,508.
Ouch.
Yeah, and near that $73,500 support level, there was this interesting candle pattern, a long-legged spinning top.
Okay, what does that signify?
It basically shows a day with a lot of price movement up and down, but the open and close prices end up really close together, often signals indecision, a potential turning point.
Makes sense.
After that, we saw the bounce up to $86,000. Then it kind of traded sideways for a bit, mostly between $83K and $86K. Consolidation.
And the recent rally broke cleanly above that range. Good volume, too, pushing up to $94,696.
So where are the lines in the sand now? Resistance and support.
The report points to strong resistance up at $100,000 and then $110,000. Pretty significant psychological levels, too.
Yeah, definitely.
On the downside, key support is identified at $90,000, and then that previous area around $73,500 remains important.
Okay, that gives us a good map to watch. And the weekly snapshot has some hard numbers, too.
It does. Comparing the weeks, the close went from $84,749 to $93,944. That's a solid 10.85% jump.
Nice game for the week.
Yep. High was $94,536. low $83,977. And interestingly, the one-week global volatility change was pretty small, just 2.61%.
And we should probably mention Cathie Wood and Ark Invest.
Yeah.
Still very bullish long term.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
They've actually raised their bull case target, now talking $2.4 million per Bitcoin by the end of 2030.
Wow, $2.4 million. What's the reasoning?
According to the report, it's driven by expectations of more institutional money coming in, plus Bitcoin solidifying its role as, digital gold. That's certainly ambitious. Quite a leap from the current technical picture.
It's a long-term view for sure, but definitely grabs headlines.
No doubt. Okay, let's switch gears to Ethereum. The report's highlighting a big jump in confidence among long-term ETH investors.
Yeah, this is pretty striking. We saw a record amount of ETH flowing into what they call accumulation addresses.
Record amount.
Yep. On April 22nd alone, 449,000 ETH were moved into these addresses. That was worth about $7,750 per coin at the time.
Wow. 449,000 in one day.
The report states it's the largest single-day inflow in Ethereum's history. Signals really strong conviction from people planning to hold.
That's a serious vote of confidence. How does that tie into where ETH is trading right now?
Well, currently, Ether's price is kind of dancing around its 50-day exponential moving average, the EMA.
Okay, the 50-day EMA. Why is that level so important?
It's a widely watched technical level. It smooths out price action over roughly the last 2 months. Think of it as a short to medium-term trend indicator. Staying above it is generally seen as bullish, falling below, potentially bearish. So ETH being right near it makes it a critical point.
So it could go either way from here.
Exactly. If it can build momentum and break convincingly above that 50-day EMA, it could signal a bullish reversal is underway. But as the report notes, if it fails to break out, that could reinforce the bears and lead to more downside pressure.
Makes sense. That EMA is the level to watch then. What are the bigger technical picture for Ethereum?
Technically, ETH is still trading inside this pattern called a descending channel. And it's had a rough few months, corrected almost 65% over the past 4 months from its highs.
65%, that's steep.
It is. But it did find support down at $1,350. That held, and we saw a 32% bounce from there, up to $1,834.
Okay.
Right now, it's bumping up against the top line, the resistance of that descending channel.
So a potential breakout point there too.
Potentially. The report suggests if ETH can break and stay above that channel pattern, the next target could be around $2,100.
Okay. And the weekly numbers for ETH also showing strength.
They are. Similar story to Bitcoin, really. The weekly close went from $1,583 up to $770. That's an 11.83% gain.
Another double-digit week.
Yep. High for the week was at $8,830, low $1,542. And the volatility change here was also pretty muted, 2.02%.
All right, now let's talk altcoins. Solana and XRP are mentioned as standouts.
Yeah, Solana, SOL especially. The report highlights it as performing really well, kind of ignoring the broader market pause and just continuing its recent gains.
Interesting. Let's get into the technicals for Solana then.
Okay, so SOL hit an all-time high way back at $295.08. Then it had a huge drop, 67.5%, down to a low of $95.26.
Oof.
At that low point, it formed a long-legged doji candle.
Another indecision candle.
Exactly like the spinning top we saw on Bitcoin. Signals uncertainty often appears near market bottoms or tops, potential turning point.
Right. So where is it now?
It's rallied significantly since then. The report flags strong resistance now at $155. If it can break and close above that level, and importantly with good volume.
Then maybe $175?
That's the next target mentioned, yeah. $175. On the support side, $120, and that low around $95 are the key levels to watch below.
And the weekly snapshot for Solana. Big jump there too.
Huge jump. Closing price went from $134 to $152.30. That's a 13.07% increase. Best performer percentage-wise among the ones we've focused on.
13%, nice.
Yeah.
But the volatility number is strange.
It is, yeah. The one-week global volatility change was actually negative 9.55%.
So price went up strongly, but volatility went down. How does that happen?
It suggests the upward move was maybe smoother, less erratic than previous periods, confident buying perhaps, without huge swings day to day within that week. It's unusual, but can happen.
Interesting dynamic, okay. And XRP was also mentioned as a strong performer. Anything specific driving that?
The report doesn't dive deep into XRP's technicals like the others, but it does highlight a pretty major market development.
Which is?
The Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the CME Group, they're launching XRP futures contracts starting May 19th.
Ah, CME futures. That's usually seen as a positive, right? Bringing in more traditional finance players.
Generally, yes. It can increase accessibility for institutional investors, potentially boost liquidity and trading volume, so likely contributing to the positive sentiment around XRP.
Definitely something to watch for XRP holders.
Right.
Okay, let's broaden the view. The report touched on some macro factors influencing things. What were those?
Yeah, it mentioned remarks from April 22nd, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and also President Trump talking about the trade situation with China.
Oh, yeah. What did they say?
Well, Bessent apparently called the existing 145% tariff structure unsustainable. And President Trump suggested tariffs will come down substantially.
Okay, easing trade tensions potentially. Anything else?
Trump also confirmed that Jerome Powell would stay on as Fed chair, so continuity there.
And how did the market react to this, according to the report?
It seemed to fuel more of a risk-on mood across global markets, meaning investors felt more comfortable taking on risk. The idea of easing trade tensions plus stability at the Fed seemed to boost confidence. And that tends to spill over positively into assets like crypto.
Right, because crypto is often seen as a riskier asset class. So a calmer macro picture helps.
Exactly. Less uncertainty on the big picture stuff can free up capital to move into digital assets.
Gotcha. And there was one more thing mentioned, El Salvador and Nvidia. Seems a bit random.
A little, yeah, but interesting nonetheless. On April 21st, El Salvador signed a letter of intent with Nvidia.
The chip giant.
The very same. To collaborate on developing sovereign AI, basically using AI for national innovation and economic growth. This came via El Salvador's National Bitcoin Office.
So not directly crypto market news, but it shows that intersection of crypto-forward nations and cutting-edge tech like AI.
Precisely. Underscores those growing connections. Maybe not a short-term market mover, but part of a bigger narrative.
Fascinating. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive based on the April 25th report, what are the main takeaways we should leave people with?
I'd say, number one, the bull run seems to be cooling slightly, taking a pause overall, but...
There are pockets of real strength,
Yeah.
like Solana and XRP pushing higher.
Exactly. Number two, Bitcoin is consolidating after its run-up. Sentiment is a bit cautious despite the price holding, but long-term holders seem confident, and that supply and profit metric looks healthy.
Okay, and Ethereum.
Ethereum's at a really crucial technical juncture, that 50-day EMA.
Right.
But underneath, there's that record accumulation by long-term holders suggesting, significant underlying belief.
Right. And finally, the macro picture.
Seems supportive for now. Talk of lower tariffs, Fed stability that generally helps risk assets like crypto.
So the explosive growth might be on hold for a moment, but there's a lot bubbling under the surface, both technically and in the wider economic news.
Absolutely. This report gives us a great snapshot, a moment in time. But you always have to remember, this market moves fast.
For sure. And that brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. When you consider this mix, the technical signals, how long-term investors are behaving, these broader economic factors, how does that shape your view of the current crypto landscape? And what else, maybe beyond what this specific report covered, are you keeping a close eye on right now?
Good questions to ponder.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.